Hello my friends, and welcome to Season 2 of Short Story Theatre. As always, this is your host, Basil Nightingale. Today's episode is not a tale of fiction, rather, it is our author Bill Russo's account of his meeting with an eerie creature from the woods. A rather small and almost cuddly thing, that he thought was perhaps, not Bigfoot, but Littlefoot. After meeting with some experts during the filming of the documentary, The Bridgewater Triangle, Bill became convinced that what he saw was far more dangerous than a pint-sized version of Sasquatch. He came to believe it was the angry, dangerous brute the Native Americans call a Puckwudgie. Before we bring our author to give you a first-hand account of the terror, let's answer a question that some people still ask. What is the Bridgewater Triangle? A group of 17 towns and cities in southeastern Massachusetts in the New England region of the United States. The area has seen massive amounts of hauntings, UFO sightings, ghastly creatures, and satanic cult activity dating back to colonial times. When the Europeans first came to America, they killed off many thousands of Native Americans with two things they carried with them: muskets and diseases. The indigenous people had few defenses for either one. With his dying breath, one of the Wampanoag chiefs cast a perpetual curse on both the people and the land of the Bridgewater Triangle. Some researchers believe that might be the reason for the spate of problems that have plagued the region for the last 400 years. That brings you up to speed on the triangle. So with no more ado, here now is the producer and director of short story theatre, Bill Russo, who with his canine pal Samantha, became the first, and perhaps the only person in some 400 years, to actually speak with a Puckwudgie.
Thank you, Basil, and I'm very happy that you're back with us for the second season of Short Story Theatre. It is said that there are many weird and dangerous things in the Bridgewater Triangle, but I can only vouch for one, the Puckwudgie. It was only half my size and kind of looked like an oddly shaped stuffed animal, but I ran from it. In so doing, I believe that I saved my life. Before I tell you about it, let me set the stage. In the 1990s, I lived in Raynham, a quiet residential community in southeastern Massachusetts. The village was so peaceful that the police department didn't even have a second shift. The occasional call for the authorities was relayed to the neighboring city of Taunton. The Taunton cops handled any overnight summons from Raynham, and most nights there weren't any. I was working a second shift job from 3:30 to midnight. As soon as I got home after work, the first thing I did every night was to take a walk with my best pal Samantha, a gentle 80-pound mix of Rottweiler and Shepherd who thought she was a lapdog. Sammy and I ventured out every night, summer and winter. My home was at the edge of the Hockomock Swamp, an especially active part of the triangle with a great many paranormal sightings and reports. At the time, I had never heard of the Bridgewater Triangle and certainly had no idea that there were ghastly, fearsome creatures in it until I met one. On the night that singular incident happened, the walk had been pleasant and uneventful. Sam and I traipsed through woods near an old ironworks that operated continuously from the 1700s up to the early 1900s. Skirting around a small pond where an ominous towering pile of fish bones was mounded a few feet high at the water's edge, we left the forest and got back on the sidewalk about a half a mile from home. Not a single light shone in the windows of any of the houses. The hard-working people of Raynham were usually fast asleep before Johnny Carson began entertaining the rest of America on television with his Tonight Show. The tree-lined streets were empty. No cars would be on the asphalt until about 5:30 in the morning, when the newspaper delivery people began their rounds, distributing fresh copies of the morning newspaper. Sammy started whimpering and pulling on her leash when we were only a few hundred feet away from my house. Acting terrified, she strained and struggled to get loose. I never knew that canine to be afraid of anything, but suddenly she was petrified. "What's wrong, Sam? What's the matter, baby? What do you hear?" I finally heard what her sharper ears had caught, several minutes before mine were able to.
Kia, Ewansho,
Came the high-pitched cry of some unseen thing.
Kia, Ewansho.
It repeated over and over. It whined the same unintelligible garble.
Kia, Ewansho, Kia, Ewansho, Chu, Ewansho.
A street lamp just in front of us broke the darkness by casting a bright circle of light on the street. Suddenly, the creature strode into it, walking upright. About 3 feet tall, it was covered in fur, about 1 inch in length, with bright eyes, a little too big for its face, like the eyes of a cat. The thing stopped in the middle of the illuminated area. Raising its arm in a beckoning motion, it began waving a paw, a hand perhaps. Looking directly at me, more intensely it implored,
Kia, Ewansho, Chu, Ewansho.
It didn't look especially frightening. It was short, had the beginnings of a pot belly, had no fangs or visible claws, and certainly weighed less than 100 pounds. It made no threatening gestures. The beast stood its ground, but made no movement towards Sam and me. It kept motioning for me to come closer, waving its arms, beckoning me. I would have gone. I'm pretty sure I would have, except for Sammy. Dogs have some kind of a sixth sense, you know. And Samantha sensed that this furry little thing was evil. After a minute or so, I bowed to her judgment and retreated in a hasty walk back home. A hasty walk that nearly became a full-bore run. Back at home, I made myself a pot of coffee. Then I poured a cup. I sat in my dining room for hours, drinking cup after cup of coffee. Occasionally, I'd snuff out the lights and peer through the windows to see if the thing was outside trying to get in. It wasn't. I did not see it again that night, nor have I seen it since.
Kia, Ewansho.
That's what the furry little thing said. It almost looked half human when it spoke, and as I considered it, the words seemed to change. Kier, near, mere, here, kier, here, come here, kier, come here. Kier could have been a jumbled version of come here. As I put more thought into it, I suspected the thing was trying to speak English. What about Iwan Chu? What about
Iwan Chu?
Could it have meant,
We want you? We want you, we want you, we want you.
Was the little creature some sort of a scout for a humanoid tribe? Was it saying, come here, we want you? I now believe exactly that. The creature from the Bridgewater Triangle was trying to summon me to him. But was it merely for a chance to talk with a human? Or did it have a far more evil idea in its shaggy head?
After speaking with several experts in the paranormal community, in particular, the well-known researcher Andrew Lake, of Rehoboth, Massachusetts, Bill became convinced that what he saw was indeed a Puckwudgie. According to those who believe, Puckwudgies have the ability to appear and disappear at will, and to force people to tragic deaths, use evil magic, launch poison arrows, and create fire from their fingertips. The people of the Wampanoag and other Native American groups say that Puckwudgies were once friendly with the people, the Native American groups, but then turned against them, and are now sworn enemies of all human beings. If they succeed in luring a person into coming within arm's reach, they can pitch sand into the person's eyes, causing blindness. They can grab the hapless victims and carry them to the edge of a cliff, where they gleefully push them over the side. With tiny spears or knives, they can torture their prey, or maim, and even kill their captives. Bill told his wife and a few other people about what happened, and then pretty much forgot about it for years. In 2010, after he retired, he wrote about the eerie adventure in his blog, called Adventures in Type and Space. Movie producer Aaron Cadu read it, and contacted Bill. Aaron explained that he and co-producer Manny Famolari were doing a documentary on the Bridgewater Triangle and asked if he would appear on camera with his eerie tale. The Bridgewater Triangle documentary film was released in 2013 and won a number of awards. It had success in a limited theatrical run, followed by showings on national television for a few years. It is now on Amazon Prime, where it is quite well received. The film continues to be a success, years after its release, with many millions of viewing minutes being streamed every month or so. We don't expect that our brief production from Short Story Theatre will get millions of minutes of listening. But we do hope you have enjoyed hearing Bill tell you about his creature encounter. That's it for today's Short Story Theatre. If you like it, please share our stories. They are always free, and available on all podcast sites worldwide. This is Basil Nightingale, speaking for Bill Russo and Short Story Theatre, saying, come back again real soon, won't you?